Jai Jagannath.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
here we have Canto 3, Chapter 25, text number 2. Na he asya varshmanaha pumsam varmana varinaha sattva yoginam vishrutao shrutadevasya bhuri tripyante me asavaha. Okay. So is that mic working? Generally, we've been needing to use the other one. Generally, we've been needing to use the other one. Yeah. Na yasa varshmana pungsam is it? Varimna sarva yoginam vishrutao shrutadevasya puri tripyanti me savaha nahyasya varshmana pungsam varimna sarva yoginam vishrutao shrutadevasya bhuri tripyanti me savaha nahyasya varshmana pungsam varimna sarva yoginam vishrutao shrutadevasya bhuri tripyanti me savaha
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Nahayasya varshmana pumsam
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Nahayasya varshmana pumsam
Vimna sarva yoginam
Harimna sarva yoginam
Ishita Shuttadevasya
Vishrutao shrutadevasya
Puri tripyanti me savaha
Puri tripyanti me savaha
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Nahayasya varshmana pumsam
Varimna sarva yoginam
Harimna sarva yoginam
Vishrutao shrutadevasya
Vishrutao shrutadevasya
Puri tripyanti me savaha
Puri tripyanti me savaha
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam Sarva yoginam
Varimna sarva yoginam
Vishruto shrutadevasya
Vishrutao shrutadevasya
Bhuri trupyanti me savaha
Puri tripyanti me savaha
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Varimna sarva yoginam
Varimna sarva yoginam
Vishruta shrutadevasya
Vishrutao shrutadevasya
Puri tripyanti me savaha
Puri tripyanti me savaha
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam
Parimna sarva yoginam.
Varimna sarva yoginam.
Vishrutau shrutadevasya.
Vishrutau shrutadevasya.
Puri tripyanti me savaha.
Bhuri tripyanti me savaha. It may reach.
Nahi yasya varshmanah pumsam
Nayasya vashanaha pumsam.
varimnah sarva yoginam
Varimnaha sarva yoginam.
Vishruto shrutadevasya
Vishrutau shrutadevasya.
Bhuri tripyanti me savaha
Bhuri tripyanti me savaha.
Yahyasya varshmanah pumsam
Nayasya vashana pumsam.
varimnah sarva yoginam
Varimna sarva yoginam.
Vishruto shrutadevasya
Vishrutau shrutadevasya.
Bhuri tripyanti me savaha
Online, please chant.
Nahayasya Vaishmana Pumsam
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam.
Varimna Sarva Yoginam
Parimna sarva yoginam.
Vishvataushruta Devasya
Vishrutau shrutadevasya.
Guru Tipyanti Me Savaha
Puri tripyanti me savaha.
Nahyasya vartamana pumsam
Nahyasya varshmana pumsam.
varimna sarva yoginam
Parimna sarva yoginam.
vishrutau shrutadevasya
Vishrutau shrutadevasya.
bhuri tripyanti me savaha
Puri tripyanti me savaha.
Varshmanaha, the greatest. Pungsam, among men. Varimnaha, the foremost. Sarva, all. Yoginam, of yogis. Vishrutau, in hearing. Shrutadevasya, the master of the Vedas. Bhuri, repeatedly. Tripyante, as are sated. Me, my. Asavaha, senses. Shaunaka continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that no one can be equal to or greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in the Vedas also. Eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. He is the supreme living entity and is supplying all necessities of all other living entities. Thus all other living entities, both Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, are subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The same concept is confirmed here. Nahyasya varshmana pungsam. Amongst the living entities, no one can surpass the Supreme Person because no one is richer, more famous, stronger, more beautiful, wiser, or more renounced than he. These qualifications make him the Supreme Godhead, the cause of all causes. Yogis are very proud of performing wonderful feats, but no one can compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is associated with the Supreme Lord is accepted as a first-class yogi. Devotees may not be as powerful as the Supreme Lord, but by constant association with the Lord, they become as good as the Lord himself. Sometimes the devotees act more powerfully than the Lord. Of course, that is the Lord's concession. Also used here is the word Varimnaha, meaning, quote, the most worshipful of all yogis. To hear from Krishna is the real pleasure of the senses. Therefore, he is known as Govinda. For by his words, by his teachings, by his instruction, by everything connected with him, he enlivens the senses. Whatever he instructs is from the transcendental platform, and his instructions, being absolute, are non-different from him. Hearing from Krishna or his expansion or plenary expansion like Kapila is very pleasing to the senses. Bhagavad Gita can be read or heard many times, but because it gives great pleasure, the more one reads Bhagavad Gita, the more he gets the appetite to read and understand it. And each time he gets new enlightenment. That is the nature of the transcendental message. Similarly, we find that transcendental happiness in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The more we hear and chant the glories of the Lord, the more we become happy. Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for being here. So, this verse speaks about continuing. We'll keep an eye out for Maharaj's comments. Please let us know. Shaunaka is speaking now, and he is elaborating on the subject, kind of the base principles here. After narrating this whole section about the appearance day of Kapila Muni and his discussion with Kardama Muni and Devahuti, now Shaunaka Rishi is kind of zooming out a little bit, and he is expounding on devotional service in a larger way. And that's what's amazing about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada is mentioning it here at the end, that similarly we find that transcendental happiness in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The more we hear and chant the glories of the Lord, the more we become happy. So some part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, much of it, is specifically about the Lord and his devotees and his appearance, his qualities, and so on and so forth. His conversation, as we heard, Kapila Dev's conversation with Kardama Muni. But then there's also devotees who are commenting on this, and they, in harmony with what the Lord teaches himself, they glorify the process of devotional service. And one devotee early on in my, in a few years ago, this devotee, he impressed upon me by emphasizing the importance of glorifying devotional service. And I had never thought of that. I always heard, okay, kirtan means we glorify Krishna. But he made this point to me which really blew my mind, and it changed the way that I think about devotional service completely. He said, he emphasized to me the importance and the special position, and he glorified the glories of glorifying devotional service. And that's the circle of which is being spoken about here at the bottom of the purport by Srila Prabhupada. He's saying, what is Bhagavad Gita? Okay, it's a song of Krishna. And what is Krishna saying there? He's saying many things, but the conclusion is bhakti, right? And he's glorifying his own devotional service, which is the whole reason why we have access to devotional service, is because he's so kind that his Hladini Shakti, this pleasure-giving potency, is the seat of devotional service. You know, Srimati Radharani is the supreme mother of devotion and his very own pleasure potency. And because he has this nature, then actually that is spread to all the part and parcels, actually, to render service to himself and to experience pleasure by rendering service to him. And so if he didn't tell us about devotional service, where do we get it from? If he wasn't actually the source of devotional service, then it wouldn't be. And him being the master of the Vedas, him being the one who knows more than any other person, the one who is the most worshipable and most mature of all the yogis, he has to tell us all these things. And he tells us specifically in Bhagavad Gita again and again, right? He says, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma shucha. So what is this surrender? The surrender, this sharanagati, means devotional service, and it's accepted in 6 forms, or through there's 6 aspects which are described as part of this sharanagati. And actually, this one quality, I think it said Krishnaika Sharanam. This one quality is one of the 26 qualities of the pure devotees. And even if a devotee has this one quality of taking shelter in Krishna, right? But he doesn't have any of the other qualities, right? Then he's still a Vaishnava. And he should be respected, and we should be careful not to offend that person. Because this one quality, this is also spoken about in the Bhagavad Gita itself, where Lord Krishna describes in the 13th chapter the process of knowledge. 13:8 through 12. And he describes that one who has actually taken shelter in me and rendering service to me, I can find the verse, we can see exactly what it is. And then Prabhupada in the purport describes that that's the most important of all the qualities of knowledge. Of course, it's difficult to render devotional service without any humility, but one may be engaged even if he's puffed up by accident, and then he, by the mercy of the devotees, and then he gets a chance, and then and then at a certain point we do have to consciously, and actually this is practically the only choice that we actually have, is to try to please Krishna. That's called sincerity, is the desire to please Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Our desire to please Krishna is our Krishna consciousness. You know? And there are some topics that I've been hearing about, which is that Krishna is the most worshipful of all yogis. He deserves worship under any and all circumstances. And it's very, very crucial to understand that. This is called Sambandha Gyan. Under any circumstances, he's doing everything perfectly for me. Eko bahunam yo vididati kaman. He is doing everything perfectly. If the devotee criticizes Krishna's hand, then it will not be possible for him to take shelter of Krishna. It's said, do not bite the hand that feeds. Right? So this is actually essential knowledge, that everything Krishna does is completely perfect. That's his identity. And we as his servants are meant to serve him under every single circumstance at all times. Therefore, we hear, and the devotees, they never get tired of glorifying the Lord's supreme position. You know, that there is no truth higher than me, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? And he is the source of all the material and spiritual worlds. And here, in the purport, Prabhupada is describing, he's even the satisfying the necessities of the Vishnu Tattvas. And he's actually, they're all subordinate to himself. You know? And Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that Sri Krishna. You know? It's amazing. It's so amazing. And here he is with us. You know? So, in devotional service, there is this ahankar that actually continues to some degree, right? That if I'm not careful, then I may think I'm the doer of my own devotional practice, right? And the Lord is actually empowering me to do my devotional practice because of my sincerity or my lack of sincerity. And then he's giving me material sense gratification, or he's letting me engage in material activities, or he's letting me think that I'm the doer of my sadhana, and so on and so forth. You know? At the same time, there's this mystical thing, which is that, you know, we have to sincerely apply ourselves to the process. And that's why the devotees, they come to this conclusion. I'm simply made of the Lord's mercy and the mercy of the devotees. Everything that I'm doing is by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. You know? And this type of consciousness means that we can really worship Krishna. You know, this type of consciousness means that we're no longer taking credit. It's all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. You know, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. You know, to live in that consciousness. You know, to really be there. You know, when will that day be mine? You know? Then I can actually chant Hare Krishna. Then I can actually hear. Then I can call. It's like, in one sense, there's a process. You know? So, but the idea is that, okay, we keep availing ourselves of the association of the pure devotees. And we keep availing ourselves of Krishna himself, his association. Krishna, Prabhupada has described so many times, and it's emphasized by all the acharyas. It's so important to understand that Krishna is his name. You know, his word is himself. His instruction, his teachings, his words, everything connected with him enlivens the senses. Not only my material senses, my spiritual senses. And if my spiritual senses are enlivened, automatically my material senses will be enlivened. And this is exactly what was experienced. I think it was Dhruva Maharaj was actually, there's this description that all of his senses were enlivened when he actually attained perfection and he had darshan of the Lord. And of course, then the Lord blessed him with the conch shell on his head, and he was able to make amazing prayers by the Lord's mercy. So that's what's amazing about this whole process, is that it is surrender. And when we constantly hear the glories of the Lord, especially from the pure devotees, then, or you could say exclusively from the pure devotees, then it has a very amazing effect on our heart. That's discussed many times, which was brought up previous classes, how, we advance in devotional service. This is described in the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, and also many other places. It's like a medicine which enters through the ear and purifies the heart. And Satam Prasanga, if we take the association of the Satam, the pure devotees, who are constantly obsessed with glorifying the Lord out of affection, out of attachment. If you are attached to somebody, then you always want to talk about them. And there we see sometimes what we are attached, right? What are we attached to? Well, we'll talk about it because we like to talk. Of course, there's kind of like a seal that has to be popped. Well, we can kind of suppress to some degree, but therefore it was spoken about in the Bhagavad Gita class the other day in the purport that a fool is not identified until he speaks. Means he can make a good front, but as soon as he pops the seal, then all the carbon dioxide comes out, the CO2 comes out of the can, and now everyone can see what is inside, right? And we want to create what's called, Prabhupada discusses about something called forced meditation, which means Krishna Katha. There's a few ways to look at it. There's a way in which Krishna Katha, Krishna's words, Krishna's teachings, Krishna's instruction, everything connected with Krishna has its own force because it is Krishna and he's the most powerful, right? He has his own parasya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate. He has all these shaktis. Actually, he has this shakti, satya sankalpa shakti, which means that whatever he wants has to happen. He has that potency. And then he has this other potency, Aishvarya Shakti or Vibhuti Shakti, which is this amazingly this opulence that manifests. So I was reading this section about these two things. But he has so many Shaktis. And all these Shaktis described in the second verse of the Shikshastakam states that he has Nam Makari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. Tatrarbita Niyamita Smarane Nakalaha Etadrishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Idrishaha Janinanuragaha. Unfortunately for me, I have no attachment for these holy names, even though they're completely full of all the Shaktis of your own personality. That's how unfortunate I am. And what's amazing is that Krishna will force the humility because the material world is built that way. But if we willingly become humble and dependent upon Krishna, right? Dependent upon the holy name, dependent upon his association, dependent upon association, right? We associate with the holy name. We associate with Krishna through his holy name, And that's the whole idea. It's like associate. I can associate far away, I can associate close. Right? And this Upanishad, this whole concept is to sit closely. Sit closely to the teacher's feet, This is the whole concept of Upanishad. This is the whole concept of the Vedas in general. This is the whole process of Guru Parampara. We approach the spiritual master with service and inquiry and submission. The same way we're learning the system to approach Krishna. And actually, hearing his glories is one of the most important for us. Like I said, the Sambandha Gyan, it's stressed by Haridas Thakur and Vaishnava Acharyas to be very, very essential, to hear Sambandha Gyan. That's why in our Guru Parampara, we have so many nectar commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. And actually, there was just a quote that came out from His Holiness Dhanavir Maharaj, and it was saying that sometimes Sahajas, they want to take Bhagavad Gita and they want to, transform it unnecessarily into some Leela Rasika topics. Of course, that is the basis of rasa. That's the base. All the Sambandha Gyan is the basis of a relationship with Krishna, which becomes unlimitedly nectar, unlimitedly sweet. But for me, who's just a practitioner, and for the general populace, I have to get really excited about Krishna being Bhagavan. And how I'm completely dependent on him at every second. How he's satisfying the desires. Therefore, we can understand, if my desire is to serve him, my only desire is to serve him. It means I consciously and deliberately hear that Vani from the Guru Parampara, and then I choose it. Right? They have said, pure devotional service with no motive. That's how you'll get Prema Bhakti. Now you don't have it. Okay, you don't have it. But if you want it, you have to go that direction. Without any other motive other than to please Krishna. So we're not there either, but we want it. That's my Krishna consciousness. That's my sincerity. If I want to do everything just for Krishna's pleasure, and if I apply myself to the instructions of the spiritual master and continually worship Krishna, right, and serve the spiritual master, there's purports where Srila Prabhupada says, this is the way to get out of the material clutches. And we've been hearing, and we will go on hearing, because Kapila Muni will actually get to all these topics of the process, the glories of devotional service. So, by Krishna's mercy, the devotee can do things that even the Lord did not do. Just like we understand, Srila Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness on this whole planet. Whereas apparently Lord Chaitanya remained in the continent of India, and prosecuted his revolution only there. And now Srila Prabhupada is speaking with his disciples about taking over the whole world and creating a new world order of Krishna consciousness. Of course, we know that, Lord Chaitanya was with Prabhupada. He had, and he never left Prabhupada. And everywhere Prabhupada goes, then Lord Chaitanya is going with him. And then, now they're here. So, and actually, Prabhupada states this, that anytime there is Sankirtan, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda personally go there. We read that anywhere there is Sankirtan Yagya, the Yagya Purusha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will personally appear there to accept the sacrifice. Just like in the past, when you do a Yagya, then Lord Vishnu would come on Garuda and he would come there. Right? Similarly, Lord Chaitanya is personally there. So, how amazing would it be to really experience that association? And that's how I can understand. I'm very covered over. I'm very dull. I'm very unfortunate, because I don't feel anything practically. I don't know Krishna. I don't remember Krishna. But when I hear about Krishna, there's something that stirs in the heart. So we have to go on hearing, and it will get sweeter, right? Of course, I don't have much realization of that, but every day we go on hearing, Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and it does become sweeter, and we get something new as long as we're looking for it. You know. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Would anybody like to add some things? Anything? Yes, Chaikeshwar Prabhu. Can you pass that mic to him?
Hare Krishna. I was wondering if you tell me the definition of a sahaja, and then also what's the context of the quote that you mentioned from
Maharsh?
Yeah, what's the context?
So, Mataji may know can you bring that shloka or that article? So a sahaja, the meaning is one who takes devotional service cheaply, which means that the process of sharanagati is not adhered to with sincerity. Means we're not accepting what's favorable for devotional service, and we're not rejecting what's unfavorable, and so on and so forth. Can you turn that on?
So it's His Holiness Dhanvir Goswami Maharaj quote, Sahajaism should not be allowed to prosper in ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada vigilantly protected his society from its influence during his presence, and he scrupulously trained us to recognize sahaja when it appears and how to reject it. The primary symptoms of sahaja is that they deprecate Krishna's activities outside of Vrindavan, not understanding that all of the Lord's activities are on the transcendentally equal platform. By refusing to allow Bhagavad Gita as it is to stand as an accurate portrayal for all time, the new interpretation reveals its sahaja motives. His Holiness Dhanvir Goswami Maharaj, Vaishnava Society, Volume 7, Chapter 2.
So we can try to get any more clarity from Maharaj about what he was speaking about there, because there is a context even more than that something was happening at the time he was speaking to that point. But the essence of the sahaja is that what did Maharaj say there? That they deprecate the activities outside of Vrindavan, right? They deprecate Krishna's activities outside of Vrindavan. Would you like to say something? Okay. So, of course, if we go on hearing Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll get all the rasa and all the tattva, all the sambandha gyan, all the abhideya, all the prayojana, everything is there. And we add Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita there, and there'll be even more and more nectar. Right? So, and nectar of devotion, which is definitely nectar. Right? There's no loss there. Did you want to add anything, Prabhu? No? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. As you said that we have spiritual senses, material senses. So what point we can understand ourselves, what activities we are doing as it is on the spiritual senses, spiritual sense platform or material. Yes, it is a litmus test that whatever for pleasing the Krishna, it is for spiritual senses. But what, because there are so many subtle levels and subtle gross and mental speculation also there. So how can we understand this? Whatever we are doing at it's on a spiritual platform like that, on with spiritual senses.
Yeah, it's a big topic, how to introspect, and Prabhupada discusses it and the acharyas discuss it, and they elaborate on this a lot. So there's a whole topic of kutinati, this duplicity, and that's this whole thing, that even in devotional service, there's subtle and gross distractions, and they creep up. And the concept is that we have to make sure every grain of sand is out of the temple, and then as soon as they're out of the temple, then we also clean outside the temple, because the subtle contamination will re-enter the temple. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he cleaned Gundicha temple, every grain of sand, and then he also kicked out outside. He was cleaning outside the temple, making sure that it doesn't come back. So this is the gross and the subtle contaminations. And these are described. Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes into the anarthas, and also Prabhupada speaks so many times. All of his purports are full of all the anarthas and distractions in devotional service, which essentially are karma and jnana. You know, if there's speculation or there's desires for material sense gratification. So Prabhupada kind of pounds on us like that. You're not the body, therefore all this karma is useless. What is this karmic fruitive activity? It doesn't make sense. And he would hit that one, and then he'd also blast on Mayavadi, impersonalism. So these two things are getting blasted practically all the time by Prabhupada. And if we go on hearing with submission and faith, then we'll get more faith. And when we get more faith, we'll take more seriously to the devotional service, and we'll be more dependent upon Krishna. We'll pray to him in that sincere mood of dependence, and we'll get some mercy. And by that mercy, everything will be cleaned up. You know, that's a shortcut topic. But yeah, yes, Radha Stali Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I just had a short question. Going back to the topic of Sahajaism. There's a lot of nice devotional plays happening in ISKCON also. So I'm curious, like, is that also like a deviation? Or is that Sahajaism when devotees try to glorify the Lord through like theatrical ways, like dramas?
As a category, no. As a category, plays are very much been appreciated by Prabhupada, and the like, especially if the devotee say our intelligence is guided by Krishna, and when we serve Krishna with determination and faith and persistence, then he gives us intelligence to keep on serving him. And so this is why purity is the force. Because if I purely apply myself at the level that I'm at now, just take my next step, then he will help me take my next step in the purity, and like that. And we keep doing our part, and Krishna keeps helping us do what's best for everyone else. So and ourselves. So if those devotees are practicing strictly the principles of devotional service to their best sincerity, at their level of faith, right, under the guidance of some authorized devotees, then that play can become incredibly dynamic spiritually and can change hearts of so many people. And they are, you know, and they do. They do help a lot of people. So this purity is the force. So the concept is, if we are artificially accepting, we artificially thinking that we're very, very special devotees, then this is actually the idea that actually I'm insignificant. I'm actually really insignificant because Krishna has billions and billions of associates, and I'm just one, like, floating out here in the material world, you know? And if I don't apply myself to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita and understand that I can't take to devotional service until I'm actually free from sin, right? I have to become sinless, right? So that means that I have to do my part, and I have to accept that instruction. I have to accept the version of Krishna. I have to accept the version of Bhagavatam, and I have to perform devotional service. And it's interesting because if we perform devotional service in a real sincere way, automatically the pillars of sinful life are broken. So if I continue my sinful activities in spite of devotional service, it means my devotional service is not very strong. But if I think that it's strong, right, and I make a show out of being very advanced and make, some like play out of being in ecstasy and all these things, then it's called sahajya. Because if I was sincere, automatically the pillars of sin get crashed with bhakti. But because my bhakti is not actually strong, then they don't get crashed, and I happen to have bad habits that continue to haunt my devotional service. So I think the whole play thing is really awesome, and it's very difficult to do a nice play, but it is an awesome service for Krishna. So I encourage the devotees who are into that and who have been instructed to get into that. That's really fired up, and may all your plays be spiritually enlivening to Krishna and to everyone. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Samba devotees.